welcome to the Prince George's African American Museum and Cultural Center, and thank you for joining in today for our Pride of Place series, which is a time for us to discuss the wonderful things that we have to be excited for in Prince George's County history. We have an amazing opportunity once again to interview somebody from Prince George's County, and it's my honor and pleasure to hand it off to Marifel, who's going to introduce the person that we'll be speaking about today.
All right. Hello, everyone. My name is Marifel Bermudez. I am the Marketing and Gallery Coordinator here at Prince George's African American Museum and Cultural Center.
Roxy Ndebumadu is a woman defined by resiliency, ambitiousness, and life experiences which taught her to persevere through adversity. She called Bowie, Maryland her home for over 20 years. She graduated from Howard University in May 2017 with a Bachelor of Science in Health Sciences and a minor in Business Administration. Despite focusing on health sciences, her career took a sudden U-turn due to the desire to help tackle technology infrastructure issues in Nigeria and rural areas for underprivileged minorities. She landed at Microsoft. She defies critics and breaks through glass ceilings at Microsoft, where she's currently a federal customer success lead. In November 2019, Roxy made history by being the youngest woman elected to serve as Bowie City Councilwoman and the first African-American woman to represent District 4 within the state of Maryland.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Marifel. I'm so excited to be here with both of you today. This is just a monumental time, honestly, in the United States of America. So I'm really, really pleased and honored that you have me on today, and that you're leading in your own capacity by highlighting African Americans who are trailblazing in Prince George's County. So this is just a pivotal moment for us, and thank you so much for including me.
Absolutely.
Thank you. Thank you. So with that being said, with that amazing introduction, we're going to go to our first question that we have for you. As it concerns Prince George's County, share with us about how you came to be in Prince George's County. What brought you here?
Well, that's really interesting because my mother actually, like you heard earlier, I am of Nigerian origin, and you can tell from my last name, it's rather long and most people can never pronounce it. So I am from Nigerian origin, and majority of my family lives in Nigeria. My mom came over about, I want to say 40 years ago, and she settled in Prince George's County. And something about Prince George's County really attracted her when she came to the United States of America, because she didn't go anywhere else. She came here. So when I was born at Cheverly Hospital up in Cheverly, Maryland, well, actually PG County Hospital up in Cheverly, Maryland, we initially moved to Riverdale. That's kind of where we live. So that's kind of where I spent my younger days, in like this very small apartment with my mom and my stepfather, and really just trying to be with her as a child as she rose the ranks in nursing school. We eventually moved to Bowie, and we moved to Bowie in 1999, and we have been here ever since. I briefly moved away a couple of times when I was in college, as well as when I started at Microsoft. I lived in Montgomery County for a little bit, and then came back to Prince George's County right after living in Montgomery County, because I was really, really passionate about the city of Bowie, honestly, and the growth of Prince George's County. And when I say growth, I don't mean development-wise. I mean the growth in African Americans, people, the vibrancy. I mean, when you look at Prince George's County is not what it used to be 10 years ago. And I remember it very vividly. So what attracted me to Prince George's County is I've always been here, but I love the community. I love the support, the feeling that you get when you walk outside and you look to the left and the right and you see your neighbors and people are just like, hey, good morning, Roxy, how are you doing? Like, I love that. And other places, you don't get that type of community. You don't get that type of feeling where people are so comfortable. It's almost like you're your own little family on your block. And so that's really what Prince George's County offers for me. And that's why I'm still here.
Right.
Fantastic.
Wow. Thank you for sharing that detail. It brings so many things alive regarding, the work you do and why this county means so much to you. So to our next question, Marifel's going to ask that for you.
Where's your favorite place in Prince George's County? What makes it so special to you?
Oh my goodness, I've got a couple.
Give it to all. Give them all to us.
I'm like, between the certain food restaurants that you can only find in Prince George's County, between some of the parks that we have in Prince George's County, and honestly, I'm going to sound maybe a little bit off here on this one, but there are a couple of places. One is Allen Pond. It is in Bowie. I'm sorry, I'm a little biased because I love Bowie so much, but one, I'd have to say Allen Pond Park, only because having something like that in an area where we are with all of the things that are there, and just having such an open space for people to be able to, talk with one another, run, relax, experience boating with their children, experience, skating, just a number of different activities is something that is huge for us here in Prince George's County, because a couple of years ago, we didn't have things like that. So for me, Allen Pond signifies the growth and signifies the transformation that we have been through as a county. There are a couple of other places, there's some food places that I, in College Park that I love that's like samosas and other traditional cultural foods that I love to stuff my face with. So I would say, yeah, that College Park area as well, because there's a certain level of vibrancy that's just there. And it's almost like you're in DC, but you're not in DC, because you have suburbia down the street, but then you have the city and the community with the university and everything right there. The third place is, honestly, I'm going to blank on the name right now. There's a golf course in Upper Marlboro that I absolutely love. And let me tell you why. When I was a child, and when most of us were children, we were not exposed to activities like golf or soccer or ice skating or things of that sort. So the fact that we have such an establishment that is so beautiful, I mean, even more beautiful than some places in Alexandria, that is so beautiful that our community can go and learn these types of sports and learn patience and tactic and, negotiation skills just through a sport here in Prince George's County is so monumental. So it's in Upper Marlboro. I'm blanking on the name, but it's a golf course and it's absolutely beautiful.
That's great. I really resonate with your comment about the College Park area. There's a bunch of great foods and it's just a lot to choose from, especially with them building the Station 1 Riverdale station that's going on over there. It's so upbeat on that whole strip.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, I was in Hyattsville the other day, and I was looking at there's like this little development in Hyattsville with Whole Foods and all these other restaurants, and I was like, where am I right now? This is amazing.
Yeah. Much can change. Given a couple of years and the era, much can change.
That's very true.
So to our next question, I am curious, we are curious. What is one thing that you wish others knew when it comes to the African-American history and culture in Prince George's County?
There are so many ways that I and anyone could really answer that question, but for me, this is really personal, because the African-American culture in Prince George's County signifies genuinely, to me, affluence. There's no other county, in my opinion, that you can go across the United States and find so many, educated, eloquent, beautiful, just amazing African Americans in one particular county that are so committed and dedicated to continuing the progression of African Americans. There really isn't one. And like when you talk about things like Hyattsville, like we just talked about Hyattsville a couple ago, we talked about Hyattsville. When you think about things like Hyattsville, that's kind of signifying, the growth and the affluence of the African American community. Because in order for things like that to come to this area, you have to have a certain level of income. You have to have a certain level of money for things like that to be able to come. So that right there is signifying the history of African Americans and the affluence that lies here in Prince George's County. It's mind-blowing. It's amazing. So if there's something that I wish that more people knew about the African American community in Prince George's County, it's really going to be the fact that this is an amazing area. Our history of how we even got here and how we transcended and continue to progress is monumental, that I really feel like most people need to do a deeper dive in and educate themselves about.
That's timely. It's interesting also because so many people don't recognize the affluence in other spaces, even though people who grew up in the area are very much aware of that. So to share that makes a difference.
I completely agree with you.
But that goes on to our next question. Envision Prince George's County 20 years from now. I know you mentioned earlier that we are living in rather revolutionary times and very unique times. So 20 years into the future of Prince George's County, what do you think it's going to look like?
I mean, 20 years from now, when you think about Prince George's County, honestly, what I see, one, I gotta highlight the generation that's coming up, the generation of millennials and Gen Zers, because they are within the African American community, they are rising and rising rather rapidly. And honestly, I belong to that millennial generation, so I understand what that looks like. So when you think about Prince George's County, and all of the millennials and Gen Zers that are coming back from Howard and Morgan and Bowie State and University of Maryland to come back and live here and raise their families, I see honestly a very progressive and cosmopolitan type of county that includes all of these different types of things like mixed use development, you know, hopefully one day the Amazons of the world. I see these bigger companies looking for certain areas like Prince George's County to come in and settle, to give more people opportunities to continue to excel. And so we can continue to maintain that title of one of the most affluent African American counties across the board. So I think you're going to see a lot of vibrancy, a lot of growth, and when I say development, I know that's a tricky one, but I don't mean housing development, but I mean, honestly, infrastructural development. I mean, within the school system, within the corporate arena, you'll see a lot of corporations trying to come here, trying to open offices here, because we have such a strong African American base and community, and those are what those types of establishments are looking for.
Right. No, that's so true. That's so true. And it will be interesting to see how it manifests in time.
So the next question is, what do you feel your place is within Prince George's County? What is your calling in the space that you occupy?
That is such a deep and
very deep
question that I love that you even asked me, because I mean, along with your mission, some of the things that you focus on, innovation and vulnerability, I literally like embody that. Like that is me in a nutshell. And for me, what I feel like my calling is in Prince George's County is really to drive change and to continue to drive innovation. I mean, with my background in tech, because I am a tech advocate for minority communities. I work at Microsoft currently, so that's kind of my day job. And then also, you know, being elected here in the city of Bowie, my job and my responsibility here in Prince George's County is to continue to drive change. When you've been here for so long, like I know I don't look 27, but I am. So when you've been here for 27 years, right, and you're seeing the evolution of this beautiful county just continue to grow and blossom into something so unique and so different across the United States, you have to have different people who are catalysts for change, who are catalysts for the growth of racial equity and things of that sort. You have to have people that are driving that. And for me in particular, what my brand, I would like to say, what I've usually been known for is somebody that's super hardworking, that is quite frankly disruptive, that is not afraid to talk about those hard topics that need to be discussed, that's not afraid to call light to areas, whether that's the education system or things of that such, and ask people, hey, what are we doing about this and how are we going to get there? I am somebody that's known to bring accountability into the mix. So there's no way that you're going to come present in front of council and tell me some, you know, mundane answer and think that I'm not going to have 5 follow-up questions for you if you didn't really answer it. So for me, that's really to continue to drive change, to promote vulnerability and across all of the different ethnicities that are here in our county, so that we can continue to grow together and learn from each other, and you know, continue to see this county grow into what we would like it to be, which is a beautiful place for you to raise your kids, get employed, and enjoy yourself and be a human in the United States of America and live out your true potential and your true being. So that's what I would say my calling is.
That's great. I love the fire behind all that. And I really do see when you mentioned like you're a woman to just rev up the scene. I really love that. And I think that there is an importance, especially here in this county, we already have a diverse, community across the board. And I think it's about, at the end of the day, being on the same page and moving forward together as a community. And I think we are starting to see that everywhere you turn.
Yeah. I think it's interesting, by the way, because so many people don't realize when it comes to the names on websites, the names on the pages that show who is in leadership, they don't check in to see the ages of people. And so when people say, oh, as I've heard many times, I'm assuming you've heard it as well, when people say millennials just don't work hard and millennials are just always complaining and they just aren't innovative, as a fellow millennial, it hits home to see other millennials and Generation Z saying that's not us, or we actually are on the councils and we actually are changing the world, and we're asking hard questions to actually make this world into a better place that our kids and our grandkids can actually enjoy. So thank you for living that out in practice. It makes a huge difference. So,
thank you. There's one thing that I want to add to, because you just brought up a good point. Look at the protests. Like, all of the protests that are going on across the world are led by millennials.
Yeah.
The millennials, they're led by millennials and Gen Zers from different walks of life who are standing up and saying, hey, enough is enough. Like, this is our time. We're up next. We're not going to tolerate you behaving in this manner. Our lives matter too. So cut it out. Let's get it together and find real solutions for all of us, whether that's the police enforcement group, whether that's the community, whether that's corporations. We're the ones saying, hey, you got to stop this. There's a problem here and we need to fix it. And we're not going to let you stop until you fix it.
Right. That actually segues quite well into our second question, our follow-up question. What do you feel others should remember if they were to find their place in the space of Prince George's County?
I think everybody should always remember what it is that they actually stand for. A long time ago, I would say like a couple of years ago, when I first entered into the corporate environment, I graduated from Howard University, a professor told me, hey, what's your personal statement? Like, what is it that you live by? What's your philosophy? And every time you do something, whether that's enter into a disagreement with somebody, whether that's you not understanding somebody's side, whether that's you trying to bring change, which we all know is very difficult, can you look at your personal statement at the end of the night and say, was I true to this or was I not true to this? Because if the answer is yes, then you need to keep going no matter what the consequences are. If the answer is no, then you need to revisit that and stay true to yourself, because that should be your guiding North Star. So I would tell everybody to, one, make sure that you have a personal statement and make sure that you remember your individual values and what it is that you stand for as a person. For me, that's representing people. That's making sure that voices are amplified, because when I was younger, and my story is pretty public, and I won't go into, the details because I don't want us to start crying here, but I didn't have people to advocate for me. My mom was an immigrant. She spent the majority of her time working and trying to become a nurse and trying to provide for her family. And my father was just not in the picture. And so that advocacy was always absent. And I grew up fighting at every corner, fighting to get into the room, fighting to stay into the room. And now that I'm here, it's so meaningful to me to be able to amplify other people's voices and be able to advocate for them and protect them and make those decisions on behalf of them, because I didn't have anybody to do those things for me. So you have to remember, what is it that you stand for and what is it that you're trying to do? And remember to always stay true to that no matter what life throws at you.
Right. That's critical. And with it, if you ever lose track of your North Star, if you ever find yourself, just to the question, if you ever find yourself in positions where you realize that your mission statement has altered, how would you address that for people out there, for people that have landed in Prince George's County, who have been here for a long time and realize that what they started doing is not the same as what's on their heart as time goes on?
Prince George's County is one of those counties that will hold you accountable. Trust and believe it. Yeah. So if you start to catch yourself getting off track and going in a different direction, make sure that you're turning to the community so that they can support you. One thing about the African American community, and I learned this by attending HBCUs. I started at Morgan and then I ended at Howard. And HBCUs pride themselves on community. That's what they pride themselves on. In the classroom, you see everyone, we may not know each other, but at the end of the day, if something happens, we're going to fight for one another no matter what, because that's how our community operates. In Prince George's County, you have that community already there. So leverage them and make sure that when you catch yourself falling, or when you do catch yourself going in a different direction, you call on the community to be able to support you, because that's what we want to do. Like for me, I had a pretty tough conversation or tough council hearing on Monday, and I called, my residents, and I was like, hey, I'm feeling kind of down. I didn't really get, this ordinance passed that I really wanted to pass to help small businesses in the area. But what do I do? I feel like I'm failing, the community of business owners here in the city of Bowie that are trying to thrive. I feel like I'm failing them. And my residents were there for me. They supported me. I was like, Roxy, look, you got to trust in God. He knows what he's doing. You know what you've been put here to do. So continue to go forward and not really let these stumbles across the road get you down. And they were there. So you really have to turn to the community and allow them to support you because they want to.
Right. No, that's brilliant. That was brilliantly stated, and I thank you for sharing that for the audience out there. Many of whom have gone through that same experience, so it really is timely you said that. With that being said, we have our final question. If you could summarize Prince George's County in 3 words, what would those 3 words be? Only 3. Only 3. That's your affirmation part for what we're talking about, by the way. 3 words that are the affirmation statement for who you are, what you're doing, what Prince George's County means to you, and why Prince George's County should remember you.
Oh, this may sound cliche, but it's what's on my heart, so I'm just going to lead with it.
No pressure.
I would say the example community, because Prince George's County is just that. Don't get me wrong. We've had our bumps in the road. We have. In order for you to get to that beautiful, shiny rock at the end of the day, you kind of have to go through a little struggle. You kind of have to go through a growth process, and you kind of have to figure out who is it that you want to be and where you are. But we have done so much. I mean, look at our county executive also, Brooks. I mean, we've done so much where we are that example community for African Americans across the globe. I mean, you have never seen any other community that has so many beautiful and thriving African Americans that have, whether they've gone to Harvard or they went to Yale or they went to, the University of San Francisco or wherever that is, who have come back to put their blood, sweat, and tears into the elevation of this community. So if I were to describe it, I would say it's the example community, because we are that African American community that sticks together. I mean, if you ever see anybody try to attack Prince George's County, I bet you every resident here will stand up. No matter what it is that you're saying, whether it's the truth, it's not the truth, we will all stand up and we will defend our county because we believe in it. We believe in the direction that we're heading. We believe in the progress that we are going to continue to make, and we believe in the end result. So I would say it is the example community across the globe that everybody should be modeling after.
Yeah.
The example community?
Yes.
Okay.
I love that.
THEV.
Yes.
Okay, that's that. The example community is a beautiful way to express exactly what you said. We thank you for sharing that, and we definitely, in these times, need more of those more of that understanding for the way we go forward. You had some other thoughts that you want to share with us before we come to a close regarding what you feel we should be doing in these times as it concerns the example community?
I think you are doing exactly what we need. And right now, we need to make sure that African American voices are amplified. We need to make sure that we are creating a space for people to understand who we are and what it is that we're here to do, and what is it we expect from the world, not just the community, the world, and how we want to be treated and what our history actually is, so that you can understand the journey and the shoes that we walk in, so that you can begin to rationalize with us how it is that we're feeling against all of the things that are going on in the world, all of the things that you've seen in the last couple of the weeks. The only way to truly understand those, the only way to truly empathize with those actions in terms of how people may be feeling, is to really go back and study the history and look at communities like Prince George's County to examples of people that are thriving, examples of people who are giving back to the community, examples of how communities are being grown and elevated and innovated.
Right.
This is where you start. You start to amplify those voices and you bring light to those things that are happening. And this is an amazing way to do that. So I thank you, both of you, for all of the work that you're doing. It is so meaningful. It's so timely. And this is exactly what we need right now across all ethnicities, to really come together and truly understand each other to make the change that we want to see going forward.
Amen. Amen. And we definitely thank you for that encouragement, and we keep that in mind and we keep it in our hearts. But it's with that being said that we are now ready to conclude this particular segment for our virtual tour, our virtual Pride of Place series, which is a love letter to Prince George's County and all the amazing figures, the revolutionary people here doing work that you and I should remember as a community. So thank you so much, Councilwoman. Thank you so much for sharing every single thing that you have with us today. It is an honor that you took your time to encourage and share who you are so that others can see who they are and their place in Prince George's County. So thank you again for that.
Thank you. I appreciate being here. I appreciate you thinking of me and giving me the opportunity to share this with the community. Thank you.
It's timely. God bless everyone. We shall have part 2 next week.